So I know for years we've had a trend of blue fragrances, and whenever we say blue, we're typically talking about fragrances that are aquatic or oceanic in nature, but there is something aesthetically beautiful about fragrances in a red bottle. So I picked 10 random red fragrances from my collection, and I'm going to be ranking them in order up to my favorite, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I talk to you about these 10 fragrances that come in a red bottle and I rank them in order and I give you my experience with them, how I feel about them, if I like them, don't like them, so on and so forth, I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to this channel, and I upload on a daily basis. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It tells YouTube that you like this type of content, so you'll end up seeing more of it in your feed in the future. So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. So of course, when it comes to a red bottle, there's no such thing as a red fragrance per se. Just in terms of the aesthetics, I think having a red bottle looks really nice. There's just something really classy, elegant, but also fiery, romantic, attractive about a fragrance in a red bottle. Sometimes it could convey a bit of sweetness or a bit of spice. And so I do suppose that perhaps there might be a bit of a theme or a leitmotif, if you will. However, I think in terms of how it's expressed, it's entirely subjective, and I've seen brands do different things with it. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the list and see if we can find a bit of a tangible theme in here. The first fragrance that I want to talk about is one that I directly worked on, of course, and this one by Navitus Parfum is called Imperial. So I put this one at the bottom of the list because I don't want to, kind of put this towards the top, even though I truly love it. It's one of my favorite smells of all time. This one was composed by Francis Kirkjohn and Jerome de Marino. It's this beautiful cocoa scones accord combined with orange. It's this warm, sultry, sweet, slightly powdery gourmand fragrance. So here we have a gourmand, a sweet fragrance, and every time I smell it, it just reminds me of the possibilities of everything that can be done. I know it's a bit ambiguous and ambivalent even perhaps, but I really love this fragrance. I think it's a beautiful gourmand expressed in a wonderful way by master perfumer Francis Kirkjohn. Oh, speaking of master perfumer Francis Kirkjohn, I know a lot of people are going to ask, where's Baccarat Rouge? I don't own a bottle of Baccarat Rouge, believe it or not. I do have a mini of it that I can't seem to locate at the moment. If I did have a bottle in my possession, it would have been number 2 on this list. And I also don't have a bottle of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. I suspect that people will ask me about that as well. If I did have a bottle on hand, it would be number 5 on this list. So just to satiate those people's curiosity, I'm going to leave it at that. The next fragrance I want to talk about is Legend Red by Montblanc. So this fragrance, of course, like its predecessors and other fragrances from the collection, Legend Spirit, Legend Intense, Legend Night, this one definitely has that freshness to it, but it has a bit of a fruity sweetness to it as well. It does go in a slightly different direction. If you're familiar with the original Legend, there's a lot of lavender in there. It's very fresh. It kind of gives these Abercrombie & Fitch fierce vibes, if you will. But this one just goes in a bit of a sweeter direction. So it seems like thematically, red seems to mean sweet in the way that a lot of these fragrances are being expressed. Let's see if that's the case with this next one as well. Yes. By Tat Livre d'Orange, this one is called Frustration. This is their most recent release, and very happy that I picked this one up. This fragrance has the note of vetiver in here, and the vetiver note comes across quite clear, but then there's also this vanilla husk note in here, and there's also chestnut. So the vanilla and the chestnut gives it this warm, wintry, gourmand sensation that I really enjoy. And it's just a very well done, sweet take on the note of vetiver, which, let's face it, we don't get quite often. Vetiver is very dark, sometimes accompanied by notes of woods or pepper, but here we have this sort of sweet undercurrent to it, and I think it's a really nice compliment. A bit quirky, a bit peculiar, but I think it has a really nice effect. The next fragrance that I want to talk about, another sweet one. Rouge Smoking by BDK Parfum. This fragrance has cherry, heliotrope. The heliotrope gives it a bit of an almond vibe. I don't think there's almond in the note breakdown, but I definitely smell that. And you have vanilla in the dry down. What a beautiful fragrance. Because I have this in this list, I really don't need Lost Cherry. And there's another fragrance in this list that I've kind of supplanted with Lost Cherry just because it goes in a bit of a darker direction, which I actually prefer to Lost Cherry. The next fragrance I want to talk about is by Versace, and this one is Versace Eros Flame. Now this one is also kind of sweet on account of the tonka bean, but the same thing can be said about the original Eros. That one was also sweet. It has the vanilla, the tonka bean, the mint, the citrus. This fragrance has geranium and rose in here. So perhaps it's the inclusion of the geranium and the rose that made them feel like, we can get away with putting this one in a red bottle. I like it. I really like Versace Eros Flame a bit more than the Mont Blanc, and Frustration is a nice fragrance too. I just find it to be a little harder to wear because of the darkness of the vetiver. Eros Flame is a fragrance where you can wear it to work, on a date. It's just very versatile, very accessible. Here we have a fragrance that is actually not sweet. This one also has geranium, but there's lavender in here as well, composed by Jordi Fernandez. This one by Whittian is called Banias. This is one of the best releases of 2022. That's all I'm gonna say. I've done a video on it. You can check it out. I also did a top 10 on my favorite releases of 2022. If you would like to check out that video, I would encourage you to do so. Whittian Banias is amazing. And then of course, we have one of my favorites of all time. This has been a favorite now for like a decade. And this one by Amouage is called Lyric for Men. Rose, lime, and incense. Very natural, clean smelling rose, touch of lime. The incense is so tranquil and it conveys itself so effortlessly. I truly love it for that. The next one has a polarity to it. Some people will love it. Some people will find it a little hard to get along with. Kalan by Parfum de Marly. The spices, the blood orange, the woods, incredibly strong, incredibly powerful, but I truly, really enjoy it. It did take me a while to warm up to it. Initially, I was a little, trepidatious about it, but now I feel a lot better wearing it, especially since I know how to control it or tame it, if you will. It's a fragrance where a little bit goes a long way, so you probably don't want to do 8 or 10 sprays. You could probably get away quite comfortably with like 3, 4, or 5 sprays depending on the season. But Kalan is a really interesting fragrance and I personally really love it. The next fragrance that I really admire, also a recent release, I can't speak highly enough about it. It is in the vein of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. And this is one of the reasons why, even if I had Lost Cherry, even if I owned a bottle, it probably wouldn't be on this list for this reason. This fragrance is, if you can imagine, Tom Ford's Lost Cherry with leather. This is really dark, sensual, almost bordering on mischievous. This one is Cherry Punk by Room 1015. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. If you haven't tried this one, you need to try it 100%. If you're a fan of Lost Cherry by Tom Ford, if you're a fan of, I think it's Burning Cherry by Kayali, if you're a fan of Venom of Love by Navitus Parfum, you need to try this fragrance by Room 1015. Once again, it is Cherry Punk. I think the name conveys it perfectly. And the fragrance in the #1 spot, I wanted to pick something from this brand, and as soon as my eyes landed on this bottle, I said, oh yeah, duh. This fragrance is arguably the best gourmand out there, and I know that's up for debate. I'm perfectly aware of that, but I love this one. Vanilla, toffee, creamy milk, sandalwood. It has saffron in here as well. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not so sure about the sandalwood, but yes, toffee, yes, vanilla, all these other wonderful ingredients. The almond in here as well is just done so beautifully. This one by Casa Moratti under the Xerjoff umbrella is Italica. Italica is truly one of the best gourmand fragrances, if not the best gourmand fragrance. It's just hard to say it's the best because scent is so subjective, but if you're craving that sort of toffee, caramel, almond, vanilla, creamy, lactonic vibe, Italica is king. Thank you so much for joining me today. 10 red bottles ranked. That was the basis of today's video. I had a lot of fun with it and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you as always for the viewership. It really means the world to me. I appreciate you doing so. Go ahead and share your favorite red bottle. leave a comment down below. You know I love the interaction. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon and give this video a thumbs up. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.